The emergency alarm blared through Research Station Delta 7, its harsh sound echoing off the metal walls. Tom Walker rushed down the curved corridor, his boots making hollow sounds against the steel floor. As the station's lead xenobiologist, any unknown alien discovery meant he would be the first one called. "What do we have?" Tom asked as he entered the control room. The large viewing screen showed a damaged ship floating in the darkness of space, its hull scarred and torn. Captain Rogers turned to face him, her face tight with concern. "Unknown vessel, no response to any of our signals. Life support is failing, and we're picking up one life sign. It's faint, but still there." Tom nodded, already pulling on his protective suit. "I'll lead the rescue team." "Be careful," Rogers warned. "We've never seen a ship design like this before." 20 minutes later, Tom floated through space with 3 security officers. Their small rescue pod approached the mysterious vessel, which looked even more damaged up close. The hull was black as night, with strange patterns that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Those aren't weapon marks," Tom said over the radio, studying the damage. "Something tried to break out from the inside." They found an entry point through a torn section of the hull. Their flashlights cut through the darkness inside, revealing long corridors with walls covered in strange, organic-looking patterns. The air was thick with a sweet, metallic smell that made Tom's head spin even through his suit's filters. "Life sign is getting stronger," Officer Reed reported, checking his scanner. 20 meters ahead. They moved forward carefully, their magnetic boots clicking against the floor. The ship's emergency lights flickered weakly, casting strange shadows. Tom noticed scratch marks along the walls, deep gouges in metal that should have been impossible to damage. The team reached what appeared to be the main cargo hold. Their flashlights revealed broken containment equipment, shattered glass, and torn restraints. In the center of the destruction lay something that made them all freeze. "Holy," Officer Reed whispered. The creature was massive, easily 4 meters long. Its body was covered in what looked like black scales that seemed to shift color slightly when light hit them. Multiple limbs lay sprawled across the floor, each ending in what appeared to be retractable claws. But what caught Tom's attention was its head. Sleek, dangerous, with sensory organs he couldn't even begin to understand. "It's still alive," Tom said, moving closer despite the security team's protests. His scanner showed extremely weak life signs. "We need to get it to the station's medical bay immediately." "Sir," Officer Reed stepped forward. "We should wait for proper containment." "It'll die if we wait," Tom cut him off. "Look at these wounds. Someone was experimenting on it, and from the damage to the ship, it fought its way free." The security team exchanged nervous glances, but Tom was already calling the station. "Captain, we need emergency medical transport. The life form is critically injured." "I'm staying with it." "Walker, that's not protocol." Rogers began. "Captain," Tom's voice was firm, "whatever this creature is, it's intelligent enough to pilot a ship and break free from captivity. We can't just let it die. That's not who we are." There was a long pause before Rogers responded. "Fine, but you're responsible for it, Walker. If anything happens—" "I understand," Tom said, kneeling beside the massive creature. In the beam of his flashlight, he noticed its scales had a subtle pattern, almost like writing. One of its eyes flickered open briefly, a deep amber color that seemed to glow from within, before closing again. As the medical team arrived with their equipment, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that this discovery would change everything. He had no idea just how right he was, or that he was about to forge a friendship that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of both humanity and the universe's most feared predator. The creature made a soft clicking sound as they carefully moved it onto the transport platform. Tom placed his hand on its side, feeling a faint tremor run through its body. "You're safe now," he said quietly. "We'll help you." He didn't know if it could understand him, but at that moment, Tom Walker made a decision that would echo across the stars. He would protect this creature, no matter what anyone else thought about it. 3 days passed since they brought the creature aboard Research Station Delta 7. Tom Walker barely left the medical bay, sleeping on a small cot nearby. He studied the creature's vital signs, which grew stronger each day. The medical computers couldn't match its DNA to any known species in the galaxy. On the 4th morning, everything changed. Tom was checking the creature's healing wounds when he noticed its breathing pattern shift. The massive body tensed, and those strange amber eyes slowly opened. The medical bay's lights dimmed automatically, adjusting to what they had learned about the creature's light sensitivity. "Easy there," Tom said softly, staying perfectly still. "You're safe." The creature's head turned toward his voice. Its eyes focused on him with an intelligence that took his breath away. Then chaos erupted. Emergency alarms blared through the station. The door burst open as Captain Rogers rushed in with 3 security officers, all carrying stun weapons. "Walker, get away from it," Rogers shouted. "We just got an emergency broadcast from the Galactic Council. That thing is a night hunter." But Tom didn't move. The creature had risen to its full height, its black scales shifting colors like oil on water. It towered over everyone in the room, yet it made no aggressive moves. Instead, it positioned itself between Tom and the security team. "It's protecting me," Tom realized aloud. "Lower your weapons. You're scaring it." "Scaring it?" A new voice spoke from the doorway. Ambassador Krell, the station's resident alien diplomat, stepped into view. His blue-skinned face was pale with terror. "That is a night hunter, human. The most lethal predator species ever discovered. They hunt for sport. They destroy entire colonies." The creature made a series of complex clicking sounds. Tom noticed patterns in the noise, like it was trying to communicate. "If they're so dangerous," Tom asked, "why was this one locked up in a research vessel? Why was it experimented on?" The night hunter's head turned toward Tom again. It made more clicking sounds, then slowly raised one of its limbs. Everyone tensed, but instead of attacking, it began drawing symbols on the floor with its claw. Tom knelt down to look, ignoring the gasps of horror from the others. "These are numbers," he said in amazement. "Mathematical sequences. It's intelligent. It's trying to communicate." The night hunter continued drawing, adding more complex patterns. Tom grabbed his tablet and started recording everything. "Captain," he said without looking up, "I don't think we know the whole story about this species. Give me a chance to communicate with it, please." Rogers looked between Tom and the night hunter, her finger still on her weapon's trigger. "You have 1 hour, Walker. After that, we follow Galactic Council protocols." As the others backed out of the medical bay, Tom turned to the night hunter. "I'm going to call you Shadow," he said. "Is that okay?" The creature, Shadow, made a soft clicking sound that somehow seemed like agreement. It lowered itself to Tom's eye level, its movements careful and precise. Over the next hour, Tom learned more about night hunters than anyone in the galaxy knew. Through drawings and simple gestures, Shadow showed that its species had cities, families, and a complex culture. The stories of them being mindless killers were wrong. "You're refugees," Tom finally understood. "Someone is hunting your kind, aren't they? That's why you were on that ship." Shadow's clicking became sadder, slower. It drew a picture of many night hunters fleeing from ships with weapons. The medical bay door opened again. Captain Rogers stepped in, looking nervous but determined. "Time's up, Walker. The Galactic Council representatives will be here in 2 days. They're demanding we hand over the night hunter." Tom stood up, placing himself in front of Shadow. "No. Shadow is an intelligent being who deserves protection. If the Council wants to take Shadow, they'll have to go through me first." Shadow made a sound that Tom hadn't heard before. It took him a moment to realize what it was, the night hunter equivalent of a laugh. Somehow, in just 1 hour, he had earned the trust of the galaxy's most feared predator. And he knew, looking at Shadow's intelligent eyes, that this was just the beginning of a much bigger adventure. The tension on Research Station Delta 7 could be cut with a knife. Word had spread quickly about the Night Hunter, and most of the station's alien residents had locked themselves in their quarters. But Tom Walker had other plans. "Look at this," Tom said to Captain Rogers, pointing to his tablet screen. They stood in the observation room, watching Shadow through the reinforced window. The Night Hunter was carefully solving complex mathematical equations Tom had displayed on a screen. "Incredible," Rogers admitted, shaking her head. "But it doesn't change the fact that half our station is in panic. Ambassador Krell is threatening to leave, and he's not the only one." A loud bang made them both jump. In the other room, Shadow had slammed a limb against the window. Not in anger, but to get their attention. The Night Hunter began drawing new symbols on the screen. "It's some kind of star map," Tom said, studying the pattern. "Shadow's trying to tell us something about." The station's emergency sirens cut him off. Red lights flashed as Ambassador Krell's voice came over the speakers. "Attention all personnel. We have confirmed reports of a Night Hunter attack on Colony 7. This proves these creatures cannot be trusted. The one on our station must be eliminated immediately." Shadow's reaction surprised them both. Instead of showing aggression, the creature seemed to deflate, its scales dulling in color. It began drawing frantically on the screen. "Captain, look." Tom pointed at the new drawings. "These aren't attack plans. They're rescue missions. Shadow's people were trying to save others from something, or someone." Before Rogers could respond, the observation room door burst open. Ambassador Krell stormed in with several armed security officers. "Stand aside," Krell demanded. "The creature dies now." "No." Tom moved between them and the window. "You're not seeing the whole picture. Shadow's been trying to tell us something important." "Move, human," Krell hissed. "Your species doesn't understand. My people lost entire colonies to these monsters." That's when Shadow did something unexpected. The Night Hunter carefully pressed its head against the window and began producing a series of clicks that formed a pattern Tom recognized. "It's speaking in mathematical code," Tom said excitedly. "The same code we use for deep space communications." He quickly typed the sequence into his tablet, translating it. The room fell silent as words appeared on the screen. "We protect. Others take. Make us fight. We run." Shadow's saying the Night Hunters were forced to fight, Tom explained. "Someone's been capturing them, experimenting on them, like they did to Shadow. The attacks on colonies, what if they were rescue missions gone wrong? What if they were trying to save their own people?" Captain Rogers stepped forward, studying Shadow's gentle posture against the window. "Ambassador Krell, look at this creature. Does this look like a mindless killer to you?" Krell's face showed confusion for the first time. "But our records, our history." Shadow drew more symbols, faster now. Tom translated. "Truth hidden. We have cities, families, art, music. Want peace. I can prove it," Tom said. "Let me go in there. If I'm wrong, if Shadow really is a mindless killer, well, you'll have your proof." "Walker, that's suicide," Rogers protested. But Tom was already moving to the door. He entered the code and stepped into Shadow's room before anyone could stop him. The Night Hunter turned to face him, its massive form towering over the human. Everyone in the observation room held their breath. Shadow slowly lowered its head until it was level with Tom's. Then, with incredible gentleness, the creature extended one of its limbs and drew a single symbol on the floor. "Friend." Tom reached out and placed his hand on Shadow's scales. They were warm, vibrating slightly with what he now recognized as the creature's way of showing happiness. "Ambassador," Tom called out, not taking his eyes off Shadow. "I think it's time we learned the real truth about the Night Hunters. And I think the Galactic Council needs to hear it too." In the observation room, even Krell couldn't deny what he was seeing. A human and a Night Hunter, standing together in perfect trust, breaking down barriers that had existed for generations. The truth was about to change everything. News traveled fast in space. Within 24 hours of Tom's breakthrough with Shadow, Research Station Delta 7 became the center of a galactic storm. The station's main conference room was packed. On the large view screen, faces of the Galactic Council members glared down at them. Their species were varied, some scaled, others furred, a few purely energy-based, but they all shared the same expression of outrage. "This is completely unacceptable," thundered Council Leader Vax, his crystalline form flashing with angry red pulses. "Humans have gone too far this time. You harbor a night hunter and claim it to be peaceful. Absurd." Tom stood firm beside Captain Rogers, with Shadow waiting patiently in an adjacent room. "Everything we've been told about the night hunters is wrong," he insisted. "We have proof." "Proof," interrupted another council member, her feathers bristling. "We have centuries of proof. Entire worlds emptied, colonies destroyed." Captain Rogers stepped forward. "Council members, if you would just allow us to demonstrate." The view screen suddenly split into multiple sections as more transmissions came in. Ships were appearing around the station, warships from different species, all demanding Shadow's surrender. "You have 1 hour to hand over the Night Hunter," Council Leader Vax declared. "If you refuse, we will consider this an act of war against the Galactic Council. All trade agreements with Earth will be terminated immediately." The transmission cut off, leaving the room in tense silence. Ambassador Krell, who had been quietly watching, spoke up. "Captain Rogers, we can't risk galactic war over one creature, even if what Walker says is true." Tom noticed the ambassador's hesitation. Over the past day, Krell had watched Shadow solve complex equations, create beautiful geometric patterns, and demonstrate an understanding of advanced physics. The ambassador's certainty about night hunters had been shaken. "Captain," Tom said, "let me show them. Let Shadow speak to the council directly." "They're not going to listen," Rogers replied, looking at the growing fleet of ships on the station's sensors. "They're too afraid." That's when Shadow's clicks came through the intercom. Tom had set up a translation program, and words appeared on their screens. "Let me show truth. No more hiding. No more fear." Tom rushed to the adjacent room's window. Shadow stood there, scales shifting in complex patterns that Tom now recognized as a form of emotional expression. The night hunter was not angry or aggressive. It was sad. "What do you mean?" Tom asked. Shadow's response appeared on screen. "Others like me. Hidden. Waiting. I can call them." The room erupted in panic. "There are more night hunters out there," Ambassador Krell gasped. "Not to attack." Tom translated Shadow's rapid clicking. "To show truth. Show our cities. Our real home." Captain Rogers studied the sensor readings of the hostile fleet. "If we do this wrong, they'll open fire. We'll all die." Shadow drew new symbols. "Trust. Like you trusted me." Tom looked at Rogers, his eyes determined. "Captain, humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to look past fear and find the truth. We have to try." Rogers was quiet for a long moment, looking at the weapons pointed at her station. Finally, she nodded. "Do it. But Walker, this better work." Tom entered Shadow's room, no longer afraid of the massive creature. "Okay, friend. Show them who you really are." Shadow rose to its full height and began producing a series of complex sounds, not clicks this time, but deep, resonating tones that seemed to vibrate through the station's hull. The sensors suddenly lit up with new contacts. From the darkness of space, shapes emerged, dozens of ships, their designs similar to the one they'd found Shadow in. But these weren't damaged. They were beautiful, their hulls covered in the same shifting patterns as Shadow's scales. "By the stars," Ambassador Krell whispered, watching the ships appear. The Night Hunter fleet took position around the station, not in an attack formation, but in a perfect geometric pattern. It was art on a cosmic scale. "Now," Tom said, looking at the hostile fleet through the window, things get interesting. Research Station Delta 7 floated in space, now surrounded by two fleets, the aggressive Galactic Council warships and the elegant Night Hunter vessels. The tension in space was matched only by the silence inside the station's main conference room. Tom Walker stood beside Shadow as they faced the emergency transmission from the Galactic Council. The council members' faces showed a mix of fear and anger at the sight of the Night Hunter fleet. This is exactly what we feared. Council Leader Vax's crystalline form pulsed with bright red light. They're preparing for an attack. Shadow moved forward, its massive form graceful despite the confined space. The translation program converted its clicks into words on the main screen. No attack. We show truth. Watch. The Night Hunter ships began to move in perfect synchronization. Their hulls lit up with patterns of shifting colors, creating a display that looked like a dance of stars. Then, something extraordinary happened. Each ship projected a massive hologram into space. These are our homes. Shadow's translation appeared. Our cities. Our families. The holograms showed vast underwater cities built with organic architecture. Young Night Hunters played in schools, learning to control their color-changing abilities. Adults worked together, creating art and technology that blended seamlessly with nature. Impossible, whispered a feathered council member. They're supposed to be mindless killers. Tom stepped forward. The real question is, who told you they were killers? Who benefits from making everyone fear the Night Hunters? Shadow's clicking became more urgent. New images appeared in the holograms. Mysterious ships attacking Night Hunter cities, capturing them for experiments, forcing them to fight in arena battles for study. The Research Institute, Ambassador Krell suddenly said, his blue skin paling. They've been studying dangerous species for centuries. They told us all the stories about Night Hunter attacks. Shadow confirmed it with more clicks. They steal our children, make us fight, call us monsters. We only want peace. The conference room erupted in discussion. Captain Rogers raised her voice above the chaos. Council members, you're seeing the truth with your own eyes. The Night Hunters aren't our enemies. They're victims. But the colony attacks, another council member demanded. Tom pulled up station records on his tablet. Look at the dates and locations. Every reported Night Hunter attack happened near a Research Institute facility. They weren't attacks. They were rescue missions, parents trying to save their children. The room fell silent as the truth sank in. Shadow moved to the window, its scales reflecting the light of both fleets outside. The creature began a new series of clicks, slower and more deliberate. We are like you, the translation read. We protect family, create art, seek knowledge, want peace, different outside, same inside. Tom watched the council members' faces change as they studied the continuing holograms of Night Hunter civilization. He saw the moment when fear began to turn into understanding. The Research Institute has been lying to us all, Captain Rogers said firmly. They've been causing the very violence they claim to be protecting us from. Ambassador Krell stepped forward, looking at Shadow with new eyes. I was wrong about your kind. We all were. Council members, we must make this right. Shadow turned to Tom, its amber eyes glowing softly. It made a gentle clicking sound that the translator didn't need to interpret. It was clearly a thank you. Sometimes, Tom addressed the council, it takes an outsider to see the truth. Humans haven't been part of the Galactic Council long enough to share your fears. That's why we could see the Night Hunters for who they really are. Council Leader Vax was quiet for a long moment. Finally, his crystalline form shifted to a calmer blue color. Perhaps it is time for the Council to learn from humanity's example. We will begin an immediate investigation into the Research Institute's activities. Outside the station, the Night Hunter ships continued their beautiful light display. It was no longer just a demonstration. It was a celebration. Centuries of fear and misunderstanding were finally coming to an end. Tom looked at Shadow, seeing not a feared predator, but a friend who had trusted him to help reveal the truth. Sometimes, he thought, the most dangerous thing in the galaxy isn't a creature's claws or teeth. It's the fear that makes us see monsters where there are none. Change had come to the galaxy, and it had started with a simple choice to trust rather than fear. The peace didn't last long. 3 days after the Night Hunters revealed their true nature, a new fleet appeared near Research Station Delta 7. The Research Institute had arrived. Multiple warships dropping out of hyperspace. The station's AI announced. They're charging weapons. Tom Walker stood in the control room with Shadow, watching as sleek black ships surrounded both the station and the Night Hunter fleet. These weren't normal military vessels. They were specifically designed for capturing and containing powerful beings. "This is Director Mills of the Research Institute." A cold voice came through the communication system. "You are harboring dangerous specimens that are vital to our research. Surrender them immediately." Captain Rogers looked at Tom and Shadow, then back at the view screen. "These specimens are intelligent beings with rights. We refuse." "Then you leave us no choice." Mills' voice hardened. "You have 1 hour to surrender the Night Hunters, or we'll take them by force. And this time, we'll make sure they never escape again." The transmission cut off. Shadow's scales rippled with dark patterns that Tom had learned meant deep anger. The translation program converted its clicks. "They took our children, hurt them, made them fight. No more." Tom noticed something in Shadow's tone he hadn't heard before. Fear, not for itself, but for its people. Ambassador Krell rushed into the control room. "The Galactic Council is in chaos. The Research Institute has powerful supporters. They're blocking any official action to help us." "Then we help ourselves," Tom said firmly. He turned to Shadow. "You said there's a place where your people are hidden. A safe world." Shadow confirmed. "Secret home. Far from here. But Institute ships are faster. We'll follow." Captain Rogers studied the tactical display. "Maybe that's what we want them to do." She looked at Tom. "Walker, I have an idea, but it's crazy. And illegal. Very illegal." Tom grinned. "Those are my favorite kind." Over the next 30 minutes, they put together a desperate plan. The station's engineers worked frantically, modifying equipment that was never meant to be used this way. Shadow communicated with the other Night Hunter ships, coordinating their roles. 20 minutes until they opened fire, the AI warned. Tom looked around the control room. The station's crew, humans and aliens alike, worked together with the Night Hunters. Fear had been replaced by determination. "Remember," Captain Rogers addressed everyone, "what we're about to do will probably end all our careers. Anyone who wants to leave, now's the time." Nobody moved. 10 minutes, the AI announced. Shadow turned to Tom, its amber eyes glowing with emotion. "Humans strange." The translator displayed. "Other species fear. Run away." "You run toward." "Why?" Tom placed his hand on Shadow's scales. "Because sometimes running toward the scary thing is how you discover it's not scary at all. Just misunderstood." 5 minutes. The Research Institute ships moved closer, weapons ready. Director Mills' voice came through again. "Last chance. Surrender the specimens." Captain Rogers smiled. Now, every Night Hunter ship suddenly released a burst of energy that their scientists had helped modify. The pulses combined with the station's modified shields, creating a massive electromagnetic wave. The Institute's ships froze, their systems overloaded. At the same time, the station's engines fired at full power, but not to escape. They were creating a hyperspace corridor, something that should have been impossible for a station this size. "It's working," Tom shouted over the sound of straining engines. "Shadow, tell your people to go." The Night Hunter ships moved with incredible grace, diving into the artificial corridor. Shadow made a series of urgent clicks. "Come with us," the translator displayed. "Not safe here now." Tom looked at Captain Rogers. She nodded. "Go, Walker. We'll deal with the fallout here." The Institute needs to be exposed, and we have enough evidence now to do it. The station shuddered as the Institute ships began recovering. Time was running out. Tom grabbed his tablet and a few personal items. "Sure you'll be okay, Captain." Rogers smiled. "Please, a little career suicide never hurt anyone. Now go make history." Shadow extended a limb to Tom, who grabbed it without hesitation. Together, they raced toward Shadow's ship as the last moments of their escape window ticked away. Behind them, the Research Institute fleet was powering up again. Ahead lay an unknown journey to the secret homeworld of the galaxy's most misunderstood species. Tom had made his choice. Sometimes the biggest adventures start with a simple decision to trust. The journey through hyperspace lasted 3 days. Tom Walker spent that time learning more about Night Hunter culture from Shadow and the ship's crew. Their vessel was part of a small fleet heading toward coordinates that had never appeared on any galactic map. When they finally dropped out of hyperspace, Tom's breath caught in his throat. Before them floated a massive gas giant with swirling purple storms. But it wasn't the planet that amazed him. It was what orbited it. "Your home," Tom whispered. Hidden within the gas giant's rings was a network of interconnected structures that seemed to grow like coral in space. The Night Hunter ships glided between massive crystalline formations that pulsed with soft light. It was a city in space, perfectly camouflaged among the planet's rings. Shadow's clicks came through the translator. "Welcome to Haven. Last free city of our people." Their ship docked at one of the organic-looking ports. As they stepped out, Tom became the first human to walk among the free Night Hunters. Hundreds of them moved through the crystal corridors, their scales shifting in patterns that he now recognized as their primary form of communication. Young Night Hunters scurried past, their scales bright with curiosity at seeing a human. Adult Night Hunters worked at stations that controlled the city's systems, their movements precise and graceful. It was nothing like the monster stories Tom had heard all his life. "Look," Shadow's translation appeared. "Truth of our people." They entered a vast chamber where the ceiling seemed to be made of living light. Night Hunters of all ages gathered here, creating art with their color-changing scales. They moved in synchronization, their patterns combining to tell stories in light and color. "It's beautiful," Tom said, watching the display. "The galaxy needs to see this." A larger Night Hunter approached them. Its scales bore patterns that Tom hadn't seen before, marks of leadership. Shadow lowered its head in respect. "Elder," the translator converted the Elder's clicks. "This human helped free many of our kind, showed others the truth." The Elder studied Tom for a long moment. Then it began a series of complex clicks that the translator took time to process. "For generations, we hid, watched our children taken, feared by all. Now, because one human chose to trust, change comes." Tom's tablet suddenly lit up with an incoming transmission. Captain Rogers' face appeared, looking tired but triumphant. "Walker, good news. The evidence we gathered exposed the Research Institute. The Galactic Council has ordered all their facilities shut down. They're freeing every captured being they find, including young Night Hunters." Shadow's scales rippled with joy, a cascade of colors that spread to nearby Night Hunters as they shared the news. The Elder moved closer to Tom. "Now we must choose. Hide again, or trust as you trusted us." Tom looked around the hidden city. "Your people have lived in fear for too long. It's time for the galaxy to learn the truth, all of it." Over the next few hours, decisions were made that would change galactic society forever. The Night Hunters would gradually reveal their hidden city, but on their terms. They would share their art, their technology, their understanding of light and energy that had helped them hide for so long. And they wanted Tom to be their first ambassador. "Why me?" Tom asked Shadow as they stood looking out at the gas giant's swirling storms. "You saw truth when others saw fear." Shadow's clicks translated. "Taught others to look deeper. This is what galaxy needs." A week later, representatives from the Galactic Council arrived at Haven. Tom watched as they stepped into the light chamber. their faces showing the same wonder he had felt. The Night Hunter children danced in patterns of light, telling their stories to the visitors who had once feared them. "You know," Tom said to Shadow, "humans have an old saying. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Shadow's scales shifted in what Tom now knew was their version of a smile. The translator displayed its response. "Humans wise sometimes, strange always, good friends." Tom laughed. As he watched council members interacting with Night Hunters, fear giving way to fascination, he knew this was just the beginning. Sometimes the bravest thing wasn't fighting monsters, but realizing they were never monsters at all. The galaxy was changing, one act of trust at a time, and it had all started because a human chose to look past fear and see the truth. The end.